I'm here at the municipal buildings in Dale Street, Liverpool, to get an inside look at how the media and news is dealt with in Liverpool City Council. I've called on the help of Tom Farrell, one of the press officers for Liverpool City Council, to give me an inside look into his job, what it takes to be a press officer, and just how the media really works.
Like most press officers, or many press officers, my background's in journalism. I worked for papers on Merseyside, a number of papers on Merseyside, weekly papers, trade papers. I've done a lot of different jobs in journalism, reporter, sub-editor, been an editor of a weekly paper, and I was looking for something different to do. And a position came up with the former Merseyside County Council as a press officer. It sounded an interesting, quite a challenging position, because at the time the County Council was faced with abolition, and there's a campaign to, unfortunately, ultimately unsuccessful, to prevent it being abolished. But it was also involved in things like the first visit of the tall ships to the Mersey River Festival, the development of the tourism industry in the area, which had never been done before. So it sounded quite an interesting post, and I applied for it. It was successful, enjoyed what I did there, and when the county council was wound up, I eventually moved on to the city council, although I did have a period in between where I went to university, so it wasn't continuous. But that's really how I got into being a press officer.
I went on to ask him, what is the role of the press officer in Liverpool City Council?
We try to explain to people not only what the council does, but why it does it in language which is understandable, which people are used to reading about. I mean, I think people find out what the council does through many ways, through their own direct involvement. So our job is really to tell people what the council is doing and why it is doing it.
What techniques do you use to deploy information to the media?
Well, I think a lot of local reporters say the main technique is through spin and deception, and so we of course deny that. We use a number of different techniques. We provide them with information to the council through press releases, through briefings on complex subjects. If, for instance, there is something, we've done one recently about the World Heritage Site and about planning decisions around that, where we call local press in to explain what we were doing on that issue. We write copy for various publications who ask us to do so. Sometimes, if we know there is a journalist with a particular interest in a subject, we'll give him or her a story first, because we know that they've shown an interest in it. And there's not one technique we use. We use a lot of different ways of getting our message over.
I also asked him if the job impacted his family life.
Well, I think most people who work in the media know when they go into it that they're not going into a 9-to-5 job. So, it does sometimes, you do have to work late at times to, help journalists meet their deadlines. We do get calls, sometimes weekends, late at night. I have had the occasional call at 2 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Day, although I have to say that is fairly rare. So, there is some impact, but I'd be wrong to say that, it has, caused any great problems for my, raising a family and so on. And, my wife was a journalist in a previous life, so she understands all that. She's still with me after 30 odd years.
Do you find the media to be fair in its presentation of Liverpool City Council, such as the Liverpool Echo?
Well, councils and press officers, complaining about the media is a bit like lampposts complaining about dogs, really. I mean, there might be the odd story you think, that's off, or that's somebody's made their mind up what the story is about before they've got the facts. But over time, if an organisation gets a bad press and bad media, frankly, it deserves it. I think what I would say, however, is, I think there is a tendency in sections of the media to take critical comments about authorities such as the council at face value and not investigate them. I have absolutely no problems with journalists querying what we say, being critical of it. That's the job, that's what they should do. But sometimes you feel as if people who criticise councils, health authorities, or other organisations, what they say is not questioned.
To conclude the interview, I asked him his thoughts on the media in the modern day world and if he believed the role of the press officer would ever change.
The media is constantly changing. Since I've been a press officer for over 20 years, and when I started, I think there were 3 terrestrial channels. Channel 4 was just about starting. There was a few satellite channels which were watched by one man and a dog. There were no mobile phones. We used to send press releases out by, we type them up and post them. Didn't even have fax machines. So although it seems only like yesterday I was starting, there's been huge increases in technology. Where I think the growth will be, I suspect, and changing the role of press officers is I think a lot of press officers, instead of sending out press releases and contacting the press that way, will be putting news directly onto websites and then doing blogs and so on, where journalists can pick them up, and there'll be more direct contact between organisations such as the City Council and their audiences in that way.